So you've just graduated here in the UK. You're on a graduate visa, and you've got this awesome business idea, right? But it all feels kind of complicated. Well, it really doesn't have to be. In this explainer, we're going to build your step-by-step roadmap, taking you from that initial spark of an idea all the way to launch. Let's get into it. Yep, you've done it. You've got the degree, you've had that light bulb moment for a new business, and you are ready to make your mark. But where on earth do we even begin? Especially when you're trying to figure out all the UK visa rules at the same time. And look, it is super easy to just feel, well, stuck. You start thinking about company law, tax registration, immigration rules, and it just feels like this giant, overwhelming wall standing between you and your very first customer. Okay, but here's the good news. We are going to cut right through all of that noise. I promise, by the end of this, you'll have a clear step-by-step guide to get you from idea to launch, all while staying safe and on the right side of the law. All right, let's dive into part one, the green light. This is all about your right to even get started, because before we even touch on business plans or legal stuff, the biggest question is, do you actually have the green light to launch a business here in the UK? Now, this slide is absolutely key. You've got to understand this shift. When you were on your student visa, all those doors to starting a business, totally locked. No business activity, no being self-employed, no way. But the second you get that graduate visa, bam, all those locks just fall away. You can be your own boss, you can be a company director, you can launch your own thing. It's a complete game changer, from no way to let's go. Okay, but, and this is a really big but, there is a catch. The graduate visa is basically a 2-year window of opportunity. It is an amazing launchpad for sure, but it is not a permanent home for your business. This means, and I mean literally from day one, you have to be thinking about what comes next. Okay, on to part two. The first big choice. We're talking physical versus online. Now that you have that green light, your first massive decision is where your business is going to live. And trust me, this choice basically sets the stage for all your startup costs in your whole initial game plan. I mean, it's the classic dream, right? Do you go all in on a physical spot, like that trendy cafe you've been imagining? Or do you play it smart and test the waters with something much leaner, like a market stall or an online shop? Well, the answer, as it so often is in the numbers. Just take a second and look at this number. £140,000. To launch a cafe safely, and by that I mean with enough cash for rent, the fit out, and to actually survive for 6 months, you are realistically looking at an investment of around that much. That is a huge financial risk for a brand new concept. And now, compare that to this. 30 to 150 quid, that's what you might pay for a single day at a market stall. The difference is just staggering, right? You can get out there, test your product with real customers without having to bet your entire future on it. And that really gets to the heart of the blunt entrepreneurial advice. Don't you dare commit to massive overheads until you have proven your idea actually works. Start online. Start with a stall. Give yourself a good 6, maybe 12 months to prove that people actually want what you're selling and that your margins work before you even think about signing a lease. All right, next up, part 3, the legal blueprint. So you've chosen that lean model. Awesome. Now you've got to build the right legal framework around it. It's time to choose your official business structure. So you've basically got 2 main choices here, sole trader or a limited company. Think of it like this. As a sole trader, you and the business are the same person in the eyes of the law. It's super simple, it's cheap, but it also means if the business gets into debt, you are personally on the hook. A limited company, on the other hand, creates the separate legal person. It protects your personal assets and it definitely looks more professional. But the trade-off is a bit more paperwork. So here's the practical rule of thumb for your test business. It's pretty simple, actually. If your main goal is just to test an idea on the cheap for, say, 6 to 12 months, go sole trader. It's the path of least resistance. But if you know right from the get-go that you want to build a bigger brand, one that will hire people and maybe look for investment down the line, then starting as a limited company makes a lot more sense. Okay, part 4, the rules of the game, or how to avoid common legal traps. Now, to make this super practical, we are going to zoom in on a really common startup idea, an online jewelry shop. This is a great way to see the kind of hidden legal traps that can totally catch new founders by surprise. First up, and this one is a biggie, hallmarking. Now listen, this is not some tiny regulation you can just ignore. This is criminal law. If you sell an item online and you describe it as gold when it does not have an official UK hallmark, you are literally breaking the law. So here's the trap. You import some beautiful items and you just copy and paste the supplier's description that says 9-carat gold, but it's not hallmarked in the UK. The way to sidestep it is just to be completely honest and accurate. If it's not hallmarked sterling silver, you describe it as a silver-colored alloy. Simple as that. It keeps you totally compliant. All right, trap number 2 is all about safety. There are these rules called UK REACH, and they limit the amount of nasty metals like nickel, lead, and cadmium in jewelry that touches the skin. And don't think this is just for expensive stuff. It absolutely applies to fashion and costume jewelry too. And this leads to the mystery metal trap. You buy a batch of cheap jewelry from an online wholesaler, but you have no idea what's actually in it. If it contains illegal levels of lead, guess who's responsible? You are, the importer, not the factory thousands of miles away. So the solution? You have to demand documentation, get test reports, and written confirmation from your supplier before you buy. And finally, let's talk about the returns trap. You need to know this. For pretty much all online sales in the UK, the law gives your customers a 14-day cooling off period. That means they have the right to change their mind and get a full refund. You cannot just write your own returns policy that gives them fewer rights than the law does. So let's put all of that together. Here is your lean launch model. And notice how simple it is. You start with one narrow niche. You register as a sole trader because it's easy. You get your GBEORI number so you can import things. You do your homework on compliance, like hallmarking. And then, this is so important, you launch with just a small test batch of stock. Track your numbers every single week, and you only scale up if the economics prove that it works. All right, final section, part 5, the long game, planning your visa future. Now, let's go back to that 2-year clock that we talked about right at the beginning. Once your test is successful and the business starts to grow, you've got to execute your long-term visa plan to stay in the UK and keep building. This table basically boils down your 2 main options. On one side, you have the Innovator Founder Visa. It's the fast track to settlement, just 3 years. But man, it is demanding. Your business has to be endorsed as innovative and scalable. And you have to hit some pretty ambitious growth targets. On the other side is the skilled worker route, using self-sponsorship. It's more stable, it takes 5 years, but it works for any type of business, provided your company can afford to pay you the required high salary. You have the permission, you have the roadmap, and you know the long-term options. The graduate visa has started a 2-year countdown. The only question left is, what will you build with it?